My husband's family said I inherited nothing. Then I found the real will. I remember standing in my living room, Marcus's living room, our living room, holding that piece of paper with trembling hands. My husband's sister Gloria stood across from me with her arms crossed, her burgundy suit pressed sharp as a knife, her face set in that expression I'd seen 1,000 times over the years. That look that said I wasn't quite good enough, wasn't quite family, wasn't quite worthy of her brother. "It's all very clear, Diane," she said, tapping one manicured fingernail against the document. "Marcus left the house to Raymond. The savings accounts go to me, the car, the investments. It's all spelled out right there." I stared at the signature at the bottom of the page. Marcus James Henderson. My husband's name in black ink, but something about it made my stomach turn. When did he sign this?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. Gloria's brother Raymond shifted his weight near the doorway, not quite meeting my eyes. He'd always been the weaker one, softer around the edges, easier to push around. About 6 months before he passed, he wanted to make sure everything was taken care of. 6 months. Marcus had been sick for 8 months. 6 months ago, he could barely hold a pen to sign his name on a get-well card from the deacons at church. 6 months ago, I was feeding him soup with a spoon, helping him to the bathroom, sleeping in a chair next to his bed because I was terrified he'd need something in the night, and I wouldn't hear him call. 6 months ago, on one of his better days, Marcus had held my hand and told me, "Baby, everything I have is yours. I made sure of it. You don't need to worry about nothing." "I don't understand," I said, looking up at Gloria. "Marcus and we talked about this. He told me he'd taken care of everything. He said, 'Plans change, Diane.'" Gloria's voice was sharp as broken glass. "People change their minds. Maybe he realized that blood family should take precedence. You know, after everything we did for him growing up." That word hung in the air between us like smoke from a grease fire. Blood. As if our 23 years of marriage, of waking up next to each other, of building a life together brick by brick, meant nothing compared to sharing the same mama and daddy. "You have 30 days to vacate the property," Raymond added quietly, still not looking at me. "We're not trying to be cruel, Diane, but the will is legal and binding. You can stay in the guest room at Gloria's place until you find something." I looked around the room, at the curtains I'd sewn myself on Mama's old Singer machine, at the photos on the mantle of Marcus and me on our wedding day at Mount Zion Baptist, at Cozumel on our 10th anniversary, at his 50th birthday party, where Sister Patricia made her famous red velvet cake, at the Afghan, his mother Loretta, his real mother, who'd loved me like I was her own blood, had crocheted for us as a wedding gift, all those shades of blue and gold. "I'd like to see the original document," I heard myself say. "I want to speak with Marcus's lawyer." Gloria's expression hardened like cement. "The lawyer is the one who gave us this copy. Everything is in order. Fighting this will only cost you money you don't have and dignity you can't afford to lose. You know how people talk." After they left, I sat on the couch, Marcus's favorite spot, worn down on the left side where he always sat with his feet up watching the game. And I cried. Not the gentle tears I'd shed at his funeral 3 weeks ago when the choir sang, "His eye is on the sparrow," and I'd thought my heart would break right there in the front pew. These were deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere primal, somewhere I didn't even know existed inside me. "God," I prayed, my hands pressed together so tight my knuckles went white. "Lord, please. I don't understand. Why would Marcus do this to me? Why would he leave me with nothing after everything we built together? But even as I prayed, even as I begged for understanding, that signature kept floating through my mind. Something about it wasn't right. Something felt wrong in my spirit. Like when you wake up in the middle of the night and know something ain't sitting right, even though you can't name what it is. I got up and walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of sweet tea from the pitcher in the fridge, the kind Marcus loved, made with 4 tea bags and enough sugar to make a Baptist preacher smile. I stood at the sink, looking out at the garden where I'd planted tomatoes and collard greens last spring, where Marcus used to sit in his lawn chair on Saturday mornings, reading the paper and listening to the Isley Brothers on his old radio. We'd built this life together, every bit of it. Let me tell you about how we met, because that's important. You need to understand what Marcus and I had to understand, why this whole situation tore me up from the inside out. It was 30 years ago, at Mount Zion Baptist Church on a Sunday morning in June. I was 25 years old, working as a nurse at County General Hospital, and I'd been going to Mount Zion since my aunt brought me there when I first moved to the city. I loved that church, the way Sister Carolyn played the organ, the way Pastor Williams preached like he was talking directly to your soul, the way the choir could make you feel like heaven was just within reach if you stood on your tiptoes. That Sunday, I was sitting in my usual spot, 3rd pew from the front on the right side, when this man slid into the pew next to me right as Pastor Williams was getting warmed up. He was tall, dressed in a nice gray suit, had the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. Deep brown eyes with little crinkles at the corners that told you he smiled a lot. "Sorry," he whispered. "Traffic was terrible." I nodded, trying to focus on the sermon, but I could feel him there next to me. Could smell his cologne, something warm and woody. Could sense him following along in the hymnal when we stood to sing. After service, he found me at the coffee hour in the fellowship hall. Sister Martha had made her famous pound cake, and Sister Patricia had brought her peach cobbler, and the whole room smelled like sugar and community. "I'm Marcus," he said, extending his hand. "Marcus Henderson. I just moved back to the area, started my own accounting business." "Diane," I said, shaking his hand. "Diane Morris. I'm a nurse." "A nurse," he repeated, and his whole face lit up like sunrise. "That's beautiful. Taking care of people. That's a calling, not just a job." We talked for an hour, about church, about our families, about his business plans and my work at the hospital. He told me about growing up in the neighborhood, about how his mama Loretta had made him promise to always find a church home wherever he went. I told him about nursing school, about my mama who'd cleaned houses her whole life to help pay for my education, about my daddy who'd worked as a mechanic until his hands got too arthritic. "Can I take you to dinner?" he asked finally, just as Sister Patricia started putting away the coffee urn. "Yes," I said, and that was that. Our first date was at Sweet Georgia's, this soul food restaurant over on Martin Luther King Boulevard. We sat in a booth in the back, and Marcus ordered fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, and cornbread. I got the smothered pork chops with candied yams and green beans. "My mama used to make collards just like this," Marcus said, closing his eyes as he took a bite. "With the ham hocks and the vinegar. Lord have mercy." I laughed. "Your mama sounds like she could cook." "Could cook?" Shook his head. "Baby, my mama could cook. Every Sunday after church, she'd have the whole spread laid out. Turkey, dressing, greens, yams, macaroni and cheese, the baked kind with the crusty top, you know, green beans with potatoes, rolls, and at least 2 desserts. Sweet potato pie and banana pudding usually." "Sounds like heaven." It was. His expression got soft, remembering. She'd have the whole family over, my brother Raymond, my sister Gloria, all the cousins. The house would be full of people and noise and laughter. That's what family was supposed to be. You know? People taking care of each other. I should have paid more attention to the way his voice changed when he mentioned Gloria. Should have caught that little hesitation. But I was too busy falling in love to notice the warning signs. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. 2 years of Sunday dinners at Sweet George's, of walks in the park, of him picking me up after my nursing shifts and taking me for ice cream at midnight because I'd had a hard day. 2 years of him showing up at the hospital with flowers for no reason, of me making him my mama's recipes, fried catfish and hush puppies, peach cobbler from scratch, and watching his face light up. He proposed on a Sunday after church, right there in the fellowship hall where we'd met, got down on one knee in front of Sister Martha and Sister Patricia and half the congregation, and asked me to be his wife. "Diane Morris," he said, his voice shaking just a little. "You are the kindest, strongest, most beautiful woman I have ever known. You make me laugh. You challenge me to be better. You see me, really see me, and you love me anyway. Will you marry me?" "Yes," I said through my tears. "Yes, yes, yes." The whole fellowship hall erupted in applause. Sister Carolyn started playing "Oh, Happy Day" on the piano, and people were hugging us and congratulating us, and I felt like my heart might burst from pure joy. But then came the day I had to meet his family. Marcus had told them about me, of course, had said they were excited to meet me. But when we pulled up to his mama's house, a neat brick bungalow with roses growing in the front yard, I could feel my stomach knotting up with nerves. "They're going to love you," Marcus said, squeezing my hand. How could they not? His mama Loretta answered the door, and I felt some of my nervousness ease. She was a small woman with warm eyes and graying hair pulled back in a bun, wearing a floral dress and an apron that said, "Queen of the Kitchen." "You must be Diane," she said, pulling me into a hug before I could even say hello. "Oh, baby, Marcus has told me so much about you. Come in, come in. Dinner's almost ready." The house smelled like home, like roasted chicken and fresh bread, and something sweet baking in the oven. I followed Loretta through to the dining room, where the table was set with her good china and a centerpiece of fresh flowers. That's when I met Gloria and Raymond. Gloria was sitting in the living room, dressed in an expensive-looking pantsuit, her hair styled perfectly, her makeup flawless. She looked me up and down once, quick, assessing, and I saw something flicker in her eyes, something that made my skin prickle. "Gloria," Marcus said warmly, "this is Diane. Diane, my sister Gloria." "Nice to meet you," Gloria said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Her handshake was limp, barely there. Raymond was friendlier, at least. He shook my hand properly and said, "Welcome to the family." But I noticed he kept glancing at Gloria, like he was checking to see what she thought before committing to his own opinion. Dinner was awkward. Loretta tried her best, bless her heart. She kept the conversation going, asking me about my work at the hospital, telling stories about Marcus as a boy. The food was delicious. Roasted chicken with herbs, collard greens cooked down with smoked turkey, macaroni and cheese that was creamy and perfect, cornbread that melted in your mouth, candied yams with brown sugar and cinnamon. But Gloria barely spoke to me. She directed all her conversation toward Marcus, talking about people I didn't know, inside jokes I wasn't part of, memories that excluded me. "Remember when we went to Aunt Clara's cottage that summer," she said, smiling at Marcus, "and Raymond fell in the lake?" "Lord, yes," Marcus laughed. "Mama was so mad." "Family memories," Gloria said, and there was something pointed in the way she said it, something that felt like a door closing in my face. After dinner, I helped Loretta clear the dishes while the others went to the living room. In the kitchen, Loretta touched my arm gently. "Don't mind Gloria," she said softly. "She's just protective of Marcus. Always has been. But she'll warm up to you. Give her time." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But as Marcus drove me home that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that Gloria had already made up her mind about me, and nothing I did was going to change it. "Your mama's wonderful," I said carefully. "Isn't she?" Marcus beamed. "And Raymond liked you. I could tell." "What about Gloria?" He was quiet for a moment. "Gloria's complicated. She's always been the tough one. But she loves me, and she'll love you too once she gets to know you." I didn't say what I was thinking, that Gloria didn't want to get to know me, that she'd looked at me like I was something Marcus had tracked in on his shoe. We got married 6 months later at Mount Zion with Pastor Williams officiating. Loretta cried happy tears and hugged me tight and whispered, "Welcome to the family, daughter." Raymond stood up as Marcus's best man and gave a nice toast at the reception. Gloria came to the wedding, but she didn't smile in any of the photos. That should have told me everything I needed to know about what would come later. But in those early years of our marriage, I was too happy to worry much about Gloria. Marcus and I were building our life together, and it was beautiful. We bought the house, this house, when I was 27 and Marcus was 30. It was small, just 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, but it was ours. We spent our first year painting every room, refinishing the hardwood floors, planting a garden in the backyard. Marcus would come home from his office on Friday evenings, and we'd work on the house together until midnight, laughing and covered in paint and dust. "One day," Marcus said, standing in what would become his study, "I'm going to have my own business running out of this room, and you're going to come home from your nursing shifts, and I'll have dinner waiting for you." "You can't cook," I teased. "I'll learn," he said, pulling me close. "For you, I'll learn." And he did. Over the years, Marcus taught himself to cook. Nothing fancy, but solid good food, spaghetti and meatballs, baked chicken, his mama's macaroni and cheese recipe that Loretta wrote out for him on a recipe card with little hearts in the margins. On the nights when I worked late at the hospital, I'd come home to find the kitchen warm and dinner waiting, and Marcus sitting at the table with a proud smile. "How was your day, baby?" he'd ask, and he really wanted to know. Really listened when I told him about difficult patients or impossible doctors or the time a little boy I'd been taking care of finally got to go home after 3 months in the ICU. We had dreams, Marcus and I. We tried for babies, got pregnant twice, lost them both before the 2nd trimester. The 2nd time, I cried for a week straight. Marcus held me every night, and on Sunday at church, he asked Pastor Williams and the whole congregation to pray for us. "The Lord has a plan," Sister Patricia told me, squeezing my hand, even when we can't see it. Eventually, we made peace with it being just the 2 of us. We poured our love into other things, into our home, into our church, into each other. Marcus built his accounting business into something successful, handling taxes and books for small businesses all over the city. I worked my way up to head nurse in the cardiac unit, mentoring new nurses, advocating for my patients, and every Sunday, we'd go to Mount Zion together. We'd sit in our pew, 3rd from the front on the right, and we'd sing hymns and listen to Pastor Williams preach and feel grateful for what we had. Gloria and Raymond came around for holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. Loretta would host, and we'd all gather around her dining room table and eat too much and pretend we were the kind of family that really got along. But I could feel it, that undercurrent of Gloria's disapproval, the way she'd make little comments. "Diane, your hair looks different." I noticed you didn't make it to Mama's birthday lunch last month. Marcus, you look tired. Are you eating enough? You know how some women don't really know how to cook like Mama did. Always these little digs. Nothing I could call her out on without seeming paranoid or oversensitive, but enough to make me feel small, enough to make me feel like no matter what I did, I'd never be good enough in her eyes. Marcus would defend me in his gentle way. Di's an amazing cook, Gloria, and we couldn't make Mama's lunch because Di was working a double shift at the hospital. She's saving lives. That's more important than cake. But it never quite stopped. Gloria had made up her mind about me 30 years ago, and nothing was going to change it. Then Loretta got sick. It was cancer, breast cancer that had spread before she caught it. She fought for 2 years, going through chemo and radiation and surgery. I went with her to appointments when Marcus couldn't get away from work, held her hand while she got her treatments, brought her food when she was too weak to cook, sat with her and watched her stories on TV when she was lonely. "You're a good daughter," she told me once, her voice thin and tired. "Better than I deserved. You take such good care of Marcus, such good care of all of us." "I love you," I said, meaning it. "You're the mama I always wished I had." She squeezed my hand. "You're the daughter of my heart. Don't you ever forget that." When Loretta died, I planned the funeral, picked out her dress, the blue one she loved, with the pearl buttons, made sure she was buried with the pearl earrings her own mama had given her, organized the repast at the church, making sure there was enough food for everyone who came to pay their respects. Gloria barely acknowledged my work, didn't even thank me, but Marcus did. Marcus held me tight the night after his mama's funeral and said, "I don't know what I would do without you. You're my rock, Di, my whole foundation." "We're partners," I said. "That's what marriage is." "Best decision I ever made," he whispered, "marrying you." That's the Marcus I knew, the Marcus who loved me, the Marcus who would never, ever have left me with nothing. So when I stood in our living room that morning, 3 weeks after Marcus's funeral, holding that piece of paper with his forged signature, I knew something was wrong. I knew it in my bones, in my spirit, in the place where Marcus and I had been connected for 23 years. That wasn't his will, and I was going to prove it. The day after Gloria and Raymond left, I couldn't stop thinking about that signature. I kept pulling up the photo I'd taken on my phone, zooming in on Marcus's name at the bottom of the document. Something was off, but I needed to be sure. I went to the bedroom and opened Marcus's nightstand drawer, the one where he kept things that mattered, birthday cards from me, love notes we'd written to each other over the years, the funeral program from Loretta's service, a photo of us on our wedding day, young and smiling and full of hope. I pulled out our last anniversary card, number 23. Inside, Marcus had written in his neat handwriting, "To my darling Diane, 23 years and you still make my heart skip. You are my best friend, my partner, my home. All my love always, Marcus." I held the card up to the light, studying his signature. Marcus had a distinctive way of signing his name. The M in Marcus had a little loop at the beginning, almost like a heart if you looked at it right. And the D at the end of Henderson always kicked up just slightly, like a little flourish, like he was underlining his own existence with joy. I looked at my phone, at the signature on Gloria's document. The M was different, more angular, sharper, without that gentle loop, and the D was flat, no flourish, no joy, small differences. Maybe not something a stranger would notice. But I'd been looking at Marcus's signature for 23 years. I knew his hand like I knew his face, his voice, the sound of his laugh. This wasn't his signature. My heart started pounding, not with fear but with something else, something that felt like anger and hope mixed together in equal parts. If the signature was fake, then the will was fake. And if the will was fake, then Marcus hadn't betrayed me, hadn't left me homeless, hadn't decided at the end that blood mattered more than the life we'd built together. I grabbed my purse and my car keys. It was time to find out the truth. Marcus's business partner, Thomas, had an office downtown. Thomas was a good man, had been Marcus's friend for 15 years, ever since they'd met at a small business owners conference. When Marcus got sick, Thomas had taken over most of the day-to-day work, making sure Marcus's clients were taken care of, making sure the business didn't fall apart. I called him from the car. "Diane," he said, and I could hear the warmth in his voice. "How are you holding up, sister?" "I'm managing," I said. "Thomas, I need to ask you something. Do you know the name of Marcus's lawyer? The one who handled his estate planning?" There was a pause. "Sure, that's Jeffrey Chen. His office is downtown, over on Peachtree. Good man. Marcus spoke highly of him. Do you need his number?" "Please. Is everything all right?" I hesitated. I didn't want to spread gossip, didn't want to air family business if I was wrong. But Thomas had always been straight with me, always treated me with respect. "I'm not sure yet," I said carefully, "but I'm going to find out." He gave me the number. Then he said, "Diane, if you need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. Marcus was my brother. That makes you my sister. You understand?" "I understand," I said, my throat tight. "Thank you, Thomas." "Anytime. And Diane, Marcus loved you more than anything in this world. Don't you ever doubt that." After we hung up, I sat in my car for a long moment, gathering my courage. Then I called Jeffrey Chen's office. The receptionist was professional and kind. When I explained who I was, the widow of Marcus Henderson, her voice softened. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Mrs. Henderson. Mr. Chen would be happy to speak with you. Can you come in this afternoon? Say 2 o'clock. "Yes," I said. "Thank you. I'll be there." I had 3 hours to kill. I drove to Mount Zion, to the church where Marcus and I had met, where we'd gotten married, where we'd said goodbye to him 3 weeks ago. The church was unlocked during the day. I let myself in through the side door and walked into the sanctuary. It was quiet, peaceful. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, painting the pews in shades of red and blue and gold. I sat down in our usual spot, third pew from the front on the right, and I prayed. Lord, I prayed, my hands folded tight in my lap. I need your guidance. I need your strength. I think Gloria and Raymond are trying to steal what Marcus left me, but I don't know for sure. Help me find the truth. Help me be strong enough to fight for what's right. And Lord, if I'm wrong, if this really was Marcus's will, help me accept it and move forward. I sat there for a long time, letting the peace of the church settle into my bones. Eventually, I heard footsteps behind me. "Diane?" I turned to see Pastor Williams walking down the aisle. He was in his 70s now, his hair white, his movements slower than they used to be, but his eyes were still sharp and kind. "Pastor," I said, standing up. "I thought that was you." He sat down in the pew next to me. "How are you doing, sister?" "Really?" I felt tears start to well up, but I blinked them back. "I'm struggling." That's to be expected. Losing Marcus, that's a heavy burden to carry. "It's not just grief," I said quietly. "It's, Pastor, can I ask you something in confidence?" "Always." I told him everything, about Gloria and Raymond showing up with the will, about the signature that didn't look right, about how Marcus had told me he'd taken care of everything, that I'd be provided for, about the appointment I had with the lawyer in an hour. Pastor Williams listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Diane," he said finally, "I knew Marcus Henderson for over 30 years. That man loved you with his whole heart. I saw it every Sunday, the way he looked at you, the way he'd reach for your hand during the sermon, the way he'd smile when you sang. I know he loved me," I whispered. "Then trust that. Trust what you know in your spirit. If something feels wrong about this will, then you need to pursue it. You need to find out the truth, not just for the house or the money, but for Marcus's memory, for the integrity of what you two built together. What if people think I'm just being greedy? What if they say I should just accept it and move on?" Pastor Williams shook his head. "Jesus said, 'You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.'" Truth matters, Diane. Justice matters. Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed for seeking either one. He prayed with me then, a long, powerful prayer asking for wisdom and strength and guidance. When he finished, I felt steadier, more certain. "Thank you, Pastor," I said. "Go on now," he said, patting my hand. "Go find your truth." Jeffrey Chen's office was in one of those modern glass buildings downtown, the kind that made me feel small and out of place. But I straightened my shoulders, smoothed down my church dress, the navy blue one Marcus had always loved, and walked in like I belonged there. The receptionist looked up with a professional smile. "Mrs. Henderson?" "Yes." "Mr. Chen is expecting you. Third door on the right." Jeffrey Chen was younger than I expected, maybe 40, 45, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He stood when I entered his office and shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Henderson, please have a seat. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "No, thank you." I sat down in the leather chair across from his desk, clutching my purse in my lap. "First, let me say how sorry I am about Marcus. He was a good man, one of my favorite clients, to be honest. Always prepared, always thoughtful." "Thank you." He folded his hands on his desk. "Now, what can I help you with today?" I took a deep breath. "Mr. Chen, I need to ask you about Marcus's will." "Of course, I'm happy to discuss it, though I must say I'm surprised you're just now coming in. I expected to hear from you shortly after the funeral." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "Well, the will needs to be filed with probate court. There are forms to fill out, assets to transfer. I've been waiting for you to contact me so we could get started on the process." I don't understand." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and showed him the photo of the document Gloria had given me. "This is what his sister showed me. She said you gave it to them." Mr. Chen took my phone and studied the image. His expression changed immediately, the professional warmth replaced by something sharper, more alert. "Mrs. Henderson," he said carefully, "I did not prepare this document. I have never seen this document before, and I certainly never gave anything to Gloria Henderson." The room seemed to tilt. "Are you sure?" "I'm absolutely certain." He handed my phone back to me. "The will I prepared for Marcus, the legal will, is quite different from this." "How different?" He turned to his computer and typed for a moment. Then he pulled up a document and turned the screen toward me. "Last will and testament of Marcus James Henderson," I read aloud. My eyes scanned down the page, my heart pounding harder with every line. "I leave my entire estate to my beloved wife, Diane Marie Henderson." There it was, in black and white, in official legal language. Everything to me: the house, the bank accounts, his retirement fund, the car, everything. But Gloria said I couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't process what this meant. "Mrs. Henderson, I'm going to be very frank with you. What your sister-in-law showed you appears to be a forgery. The signature on that document doesn't match the signature eyewitness Marcus put on his actual will 9 months ago. How can you be sure? He pulled a file from his cabinet and opened it, showing me the original will, the real will. Marcus's signature was at the bottom, clear as day. That distinctive M with the little loop, that upward kick on the D in Henderson. I pulled out my phone and compared them side by side. The difference was obvious now that I knew what to look for. Someone forged my husband's signature, I said slowly. Someone created a fake will. Yes, Gloria. Mr. Chen didn't confirm it, couldn't, legally. But I saw the answer in his eyes. I closed my eyes, feeling rage and relief wash over me in equal waves. Rage that Gloria had done this. Relief that Marcus hadn't betrayed me. Relief that everything I'd believed about our marriage, our love, our life together was true. What do I do now? I asked. First, I'm going to make you a certified copy of the real will. Second, we're going to file it with probate court today. Third, I'm going to write a letter to Gloria and Raymond Henderson, informing them that I am Marcus's attorney of record and that the document they possess is fraudulent. Will there be legal consequences for Gloria? Mr. Chen leaned back in his chair. That depends on what you want to do. Forgery is illegal. Fraud is illegal. But pursuing criminal charges means involving the police, possibly prosecutors. It can get complicated and ugly. Or, he paused, or we can handle this civilly. Force them to acknowledge the real will, return any assets they may have claimed, and leave it at that. I thought about Loretta, about the way she'd loved her children, even when they disappointed her, about how she'd want me to handle this. Let me think about it, I said. That's fair. But Mrs. Henderson, don't let guilt or family pressure make this decision for you. What Gloria did was wrong. Whether she faces legal consequences is up to you, but she doesn't get to decide what happens next. You do. He printed out a copy of the real will and walked me through every detail. The house had been in both our names. Joint tenancy, he called it, so it automatically became mine when Marcus died. His retirement accounts listed me as the sole beneficiary. There was a life insurance policy I didn't even know about with my name on it. Even his car was willed to me. Everything Gloria and Raymond had claimed was actually mine. How long until everything is official? I asked. The probate process takes a few months typically. But the house is already yours. That transfer happened automatically when Marcus passed. The bank accounts and retirement funds will take longer, but I'll handle all of that. You don't need to worry about anything except reading and signing documents when I send them to you. How much will this cost? The word stuck in my throat. Marcus's medical bills had drained most of our savings. I'd been using my nursing salary to keep us afloat these last months. Mr. Chen's expression softened. Marcus and I had an arrangement. He prepaid for all estate administration services 2 years ago. He wanted to make sure you wouldn't have to worry about legal fees on top of everything else. This won't cost you a penny, Mrs. Henderson. That's when I started crying. Not from sadness, but from relief so profound it felt like I could finally breathe again. Like I'd been underwater for 3 weeks. And was finally breaking the surface. Mr. Chen pushed a box of tissues across his desk and waited patiently while I composed myself. You're going to be fine, he said gently. Marcus made sure of it. He was very thorough, very clear about his wishes. He wanted you taken care of. Thank you, I managed. Thank you so much. It's my job. But more than that, I liked Marcus. He was a good man, and from everything he told me about you, you're a good woman. You deserve what he left you. You earned it. I drove home in a daze. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. My mind was racing with thoughts I couldn't quite organize. Gloria had forged Marcus's will, had tried to steal my home, my security, everything Marcus and I had built together, had walked into my house 3 weeks after I buried my husband and tried to take it all away. Why? I kept coming back to that question. Why would she do this? What could possibly motivate someone to be so cruel? When I got home, I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of sweet tea and tried to think it through logically. Gloria had never liked me. That much was clear. But dislike was one thing, forgery was another. There had to be a reason, something that made her desperate enough or angry enough to do something this extreme. I thought about Raymond's words. Raymond needs it. He's got kids, debts, a family. Money. It always came down to money. I got up and went to Marcus's study. It was just as he'd left it, papers scattered on the desk, his reading glasses on top of a financial magazine, his coffee cup still sitting on the coaster I'd bought him last Christmas. The cup said, "World's Best Husband." I picked it up, tracing my finger over the words. "Oh, Marcus," I whispered. "Your sister really did us dirty, baby." I started going through his desk drawers, looking for, I wasn't sure what, evidence, understanding, some clue that would help me make sense of this. The top drawer held the usual things: pens, paper clips, old receipts, business cards. The second drawer was more of the same, but when I opened the bottom drawer, I found a leather portfolio I'd never seen before. Inside were documents, important documents. I spread them out on Marcus's desk, my heart pounding. One was a power of attorney form, dated 2 years ago, naming me as Marcus's agent for healthcare and financial decisions. I remembered signing that. We'd done it together after his daddy died without one, and the family had fought for weeks over who should make decisions about his funeral. Another was a deed to the house, both our names on it, joint tenancy with right of survivorship. The same phrase Mr. Chen had used. If we both owned it, how could Marcus will it to anyone? And the third document made my hands shake. Last Will and Testament of Marcus James Henderson. The same will Mr. Chen had shown me, the real one, dated 9 months ago, before Marcus got really sick, before he started needing help with everything, when he was still strong enough to drive himself to appointments and insist he was fine, just tired. I read through it slowly. The legal language was dense, but the meaning was clear. Everything to me, his beloved wife, the woman he'd spent 23 years loving. I took pictures of every page with my phone. Then I carefully put the portfolio back in the drawer. So Marcus had kept a copy here, had made sure I'd be able to find the truth if something went wrong. Had he known? Had he suspected his family might try something? I thought about the last conversation we'd had about the will. It was about 3 weeks before he died. He'd been having a good day. The pain meds were working. His mind was clear. We'd been sitting on the back porch, watching the sun set over the garden. "Di," he'd said, taking my hand, "I want you to know that everything is taken care of. The house, the accounts, all of it. It's all yours." "Don't talk like that," I'd said. "You're going to be fine." "Baby, we both know that's not true." His voice was gentle but firm. "I'm tired, so tired, and I'm ready to rest. But I need you to know that you're going to be okay." I made sure of it. "Marcus, promise me something," he interrupted. "Promise me that if anyone, and I mean anyone, tries to tell you different, you'll fight them. Don't just accept it. Don't let them push you around. You're stronger than you think, Di. Stronger than they think." At the time, I'd thought he was just being paranoid, worried about me being alone. But now, Now I wondered if he'd known exactly what Gloria would try to do. I sat at his desk for a long time, holding that coffee cup, thinking about my husband and everything he'd done to protect me. "I'm going to fight, baby," I whispered to the empty room, "just like you told me to." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head. The look on Gloria's face when she'd handed me that fake will, the way Raymond wouldn't meet my eyes, the certainty in Gloria's voice when she'd said, "You have 30 days to vacate." They'd been so confident, so sure I'd just accept it. Why? Because I'd always been quiet, always been the peacemaker, always let Gloria's little digs slide without defending myself. Because I'd spent 23 years trying to be good enough for Marcus's family, trying to prove I was worthy of him, trying not to cause trouble. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd pack my bags and slink away without a fight. But I'd been a nurse for 30 years. I'd fought with insurance companies over coverage for my patients. I'd stood up to doctors who tried to overrule my professional judgment. I'd advocated for people who couldn't advocate for themselves. I could fight for myself, too. Around 2 in the morning, I got out of bed and went back to Marcus's study. There had to be more. Some clue about how Gloria had pulled this off. Some piece of evidence that would help me understand. I went through the desk drawers again, more carefully this time. In the middle drawer, underneath a stack of old bank statements, I found a business card. "Complete Document Services," it read. "We handle all your document needs: wills, trusts, power of attorney, business contracts." Under the business card was a receipt, dated 5 months ago, 3 months before Marcus died. Services rendered, document preparation and notarization. Amount $500. I flipped the receipt over. On the back, in handwriting that definitely wasn't Marcus's, someone had written, "Draft completed, awaiting final signature." My stomach twisted. This was it. This was proof that someone had paid to have a fake will created. But who? And when had this receipt ended up in Marcus's desk? I thought about Gloria coming over the day after the funeral, how she'd insisted on helping me sort through Marcus's things, how she'd spent 2 hours in his study. Had she been looking for something? Had she been trying to find the real will? Or had she been planting this receipt, thinking I'd find it and what? Think Marcus had commissioned the fake will himself? That didn't make sense. If she'd wanted me to think Marcus created the second will, she wouldn't have needed to forge his signature. Unless someone else had the receipt made. Someone who knew about Complete Document Services. Someone who'd paid them $500 to create a fake will. Gloria. I turned on Marcus's computer and searched for Complete Document Services. Their website was professional looking, full of testimonials and photos of happy clients signing documents. I clicked on the About Us page. The company was owned by someone named Donald Morrison. The address was on the east side of town, in a strip mall. I took screenshots of everything and emailed them to myself. Then I sent a message to Mr. Chen. "Found something you need to see. Calling you first thing tomorrow." The next morning, Mr. Chen called me back at 8 a.m. sharp. "Mrs. Henderson, I looked into Complete Document Services last night. I have some concerns." "What kind of concerns?" "It's a legitimate business. They're licensed and bonded, but they operate in a gray area. They prepare documents for people who can't afford lawyers, which is fine, but they're not attorneys, and they're not supposed to be giving legal advice. I'm going to call them today and ask some questions." "Questions about what?" "About whether Gloria Henderson commissioned a will from them. About whether they notarized a signature they didn't personally witness. About whether they understood they were potentially participating in fraud." "Will they tell you?" "Oh, they'll tell me." There was steel in his voice. "Because if they don't cooperate, I'm going to report them to the state bar and the Secretary of State's office. They'll lose their business license. They know that. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Jeffrey, he said. Call me Jeffrey. We're going to be working together closely for the next few months. Might as well be on a first-name basis. Jeffrey, I repeated. Thank you, Jeffrey. He called me back 3 hours later. Well, he said, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. That was illuminating. What did they say? Complete Document Services admitted that Gloria Henderson came to them 4 months ago, 3 months before Marcus died. She told them she needed a simple will prepared, that her brother wanted to make sure his assets were distributed properly, and that she was handling the paperwork for him. My hands clenched into fists. And they believed her? They said they had no reason not to. She paid in cash. She seemed professional. She told them Marcus was sick and couldn't come in personally, but that he'd sign it when she brought the document to him. So they prepared a fake will based on Gloria's instructions. Yes, though they maintain they thought it was legitimate. They claim Gloria told them you and Marcus wanted a simple will prepared, and that Marcus would review and sign it. That's a lie. I know it is, and now they know I know it is. They're scared, Diane. They know they could be in serious trouble. They've agreed to cooperate fully, provide records of their dealings with Gloria, copies of the documents they prepared, everything. Will that be enough to prove Gloria forged the will? It's a start. Combined with the handwriting analysis, comparing the signature on the fake will to Marcus's actual signature, we should have a strong case. The question is what you want to do with that case. I was quiet for a long moment. I want to talk to her, I said finally, to Gloria. I want to understand why she did this. Diane, I'd advise against... I know, but I need to do this. For myself, for Marcus's memory. I need to hear her say it. Jeffrey sighed. All right, but I'm coming with you, and we're recording everything. 3 days later, I sat across from Gloria in a coffee shop downtown. It was neutral territory. Not my house, not hers. Just a quiet cafe on a Tuesday afternoon when most people were at work. Jeffrey sat beside me, his phone on the table between us with the voice recorder running. Gloria had insisted on bringing Raymond, who sat beside her looking uncomfortable and guilty. I don't know what you think you're going to accomplish with this meeting, Gloria said, her voice sharp. She was dressed impeccably as always, pressed slacks, silk blouse, perfectly applied makeup. But there were dark circles under her eyes that the concealer couldn't quite hide. I want the truth, I said quietly. That's all. Just the truth. The truth is in the will, Marcus's will, the one Raymond and I showed you. That will is fake, I said, and you know it. Something flickered across her face, surprise maybe that I'd figured it out, but she recovered quickly. That's ridiculous. The lawyer. Jeffrey Chen is sitting right here, Gloria. He's Marcus's actual lawyer. The one who prepared Marcus's actual will, the one that leaves everything to me. Her eyes darted to Jeffrey, then back to me. I saw the moment she realized she'd been caught, saw her trying to figure out her next move. I can prove you forged Marcus's signature, I continued. I can prove you went to Complete Document Services and paid them to create that fake will. I can prove everything, Gloria. So please, stop lying to me and just tell me why. Raymond spoke up for the first time, his voice quiet. Gloria, maybe we should... Shut up, Raymond, she snapped. No. Raymond's voice got stronger. This has gone far enough. Diane, I'm sorry. I should have stopped this from the beginning. I should have known it was wrong. Raymond. She needed money, Raymond said, looking at me instead of his sister. Gloria's been having financial problems. Her business failed last year. She's got debt, lots of debt. When Marcus got sick, she saw an opportunity. I didn't, Gloria started, but Raymond kept talking. She asked me if I thought Marcus would leave us anything. I said probably not. He loved you. Everyone knew that. But Gloria, she couldn't accept it. She said it wasn't fair, that the house should have stayed in the family, that you were just some woman Marcus married, not real family. Raymond, stop it, Gloria hissed. No, he turned to her. What we did was wrong, Gloria. We tried to steal from Diane, from Marcus's widow, the woman who took care of him when he was dying, who loved him more than we ever did. Gloria's face crumpled. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked vulnerable, human. You don't understand, she said, her voice breaking. That house, it was supposed to be mine. When Mama and Daddy died, Marcus got everything because he was the oldest son. Raymond and I got nothing. It wasn't fair. Life isn't fair, Gloria, I said, but that doesn't give you the right to forge documents and steal from people. I wasn't stealing. I was taking what should have been mine in the first place. No, I said firmly. You were stealing. From me. From your brother's widow. The woman he loved for 23 years. The woman he wanted to protect even after he was gone. Jeffrey spoke for the first time. Ms. Henderson, you've essentially admitted to forgery and fraud. Mrs. Henderson has been kind enough to meet with you before taking further action. So I'm going to be very clear. You have two options. Option 1, sign a document acknowledging that the will you presented was fraudulent and that Marcus's actual will leaves everything to Diane. Return any assets you may have already claimed and stay away from Mrs. Henderson and Marcus's estate going forward. Option 2, we take all the evidence we have, and we have quite a bit, and we pursue this through the courts, which could mean criminal charges, which could mean jail time. Gloria went pale. Jail? Forgery is a crime. Fraud is a crime. What you did was illegal, Miss Henderson. She looked at Raymond, then at me. I saw desperation in her eyes, fear. I didn't think it would work, she whispered. I thought you'd fight it. I thought you'd find the real will and we'd just... I don't know. I thought I'd try. You thought I was too stupid or too weak to fight back, I said. She didn't deny it. I thought about Loretta, about what she would want me to do, about mercy and justice and the fine line between them. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady. You're going to sign Jeffrey's document. You're going to acknowledge that you lied, and you're going to stay away from me, from my house, from Marcus's memory. If you do that, I won't pursue criminal charges. And if I don't? I leaned forward, looking her straight in the eyes. Then you'll find out what happens when you underestimate someone. Gloria signed the document that afternoon, in Jeffrey's office, with a notary present. Her hand shook as she wrote her name, and I felt a twinge of something, not quite sympathy, but not satisfaction either. This whole situation was just sad. Sad that Marcus's sister had been willing to do something so terrible. Sad that family could turn on each other like this. Sad that greed could override love and decency and basic human kindness. Raymond pulled me aside as we were leaving the office. Diane, he said quietly, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm sorry, truly sorry. I should have been stronger, should have stood up to Gloria from the beginning. I looked at him, this man who'd been Marcus's brother, who'd stood up as best man at our wedding, who'd been too weak to do the right thing when it mattered. Marcus loved you, I said. He worried about you, always wished you'd be stronger. Raymond's eyes filled with tears. I know. He would want you to be okay, to get your life together, to be a good father to your kids. I'm trying. I thought about it for a moment. about what Marcus would want, about the difference between justice and revenge. "There's a savings account," I said, "about $10,000. Marcus set it up years ago for family emergencies. I think he'd want you to have it, not Gloria, just you, for your kids." Raymond's face crumpled. "Diane, I can't." "You can. Consider it a gift from Marcus. One last act of love from a brother who never stopped hoping you'd be better than you were." He nodded, unable to speak, and left. Jeffrey walked me to my car. "That was generous of you," he said. "The money for Raymond. Marcus would have wanted it. Still, most people wouldn't be so forgiving after what they put you through." I thought about it. I'm not sure I've forgiven them yet. Maybe I never will. But holding on to anger, it's like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. I can be angry, or I can move forward. I choose to move forward. "Wise woman." "Tired woman," I corrected. "I'm just so tired of all of this." "Well, the hard part's over. Now we just file the real will with probate court and start the process of transferring everything into your name. Should take a few months, but it's all straightforward from here." "Thank you, Jeffrey, for everything." "My pleasure. Marcus was a good man. He deserved to have his wishes honored, and you deserve to be taken care of." That night I cooked dinner in my kitchen, lasagna, Marcus's favorite. I set the table with the nice dishes we'd gotten as wedding gifts and never used enough. I poured a glass of wine and sat down alone, looking at the empty chair across from me. "I did it, baby," I said to the silence. "I fought back, just like you told me to. They tried to take everything from us, but I didn't let them. Your wishes are going to be honored. Everything you worked for, everything we worked for, is safe." The house was quiet, but it didn't feel empty. It felt like mine. Like home. I took a bite of lasagna and smiled through my tears. In the weeks that followed, life started to settle into a new kind of normal. Jeffrey filed the real will with probate court. The insurance policy paid out. Enough money that I could work part-time instead of full-time at the hospital, which was a blessing. 30 years of nursing had taken a toll on my body. My knees ached. My back hurt. My hands were stiff in the mornings, but I wasn't ready to retire completely. I loved my work, loved my patients, loved feeling useful and needed. I went back to the hospital part-time, working 3 12-hour shifts a week instead of 5. The other nurses welcomed me back with hugs and casseroles and stories about all the chaos I'd missed while I was dealing with Marcus's death and Gloria's schemes. One afternoon, I was restocking supplies in the ICU when Sandra, one of the younger nurses, approached me. "Diane, there's someone in the waiting room asking for you. She says she's family." My stomach dropped. Not Gloria. Please, not Gloria. But when I walked into the waiting room, it wasn't Gloria standing there. It was a young woman I didn't recognize. Early 20s, beautiful, with Marcus's eyes and his warm smile. "Mrs. Henderson," she said nervously, twisting her hands together. "I'm Crystal Morrison. I think I'm sort of your niece. Marcus's niece, really." I stared at her, trying to place the name. Morrison. Like Donald Morrison from Complete Document Services. "Oh, Lord," I said softly. "Yeah." She gave a sad little laugh. "My dad owns the document place, the one that made the fake will. When he told me what happened, what he'd helped Gloria do, I couldn't believe it. And then I found out why Aunt Gloria came to him in the first place." "Aunt Gloria?" Crystal nodded. "She's my mom's sister. That's why Dad did it. Family favor. He thought it was legitimate. Or at least that's what he told himself. Mom convinced him to help. But that's not why I'm here." "Why are you here?" She pulled a folder out of her bag. "Because when I found out what happened, I did some digging, and I found something you need to see." We went to the hospital cafeteria, found a quiet corner, and Crystal spread out papers on the table between us. Bank statements, email printouts, text message screenshots. "Gloria's been planning this for over a year," Crystal said quietly. "Since before Uncle Marcus even got sick. Look at these text messages between her and my mom." I read them, feeling sick. Messages about how Marcus was too generous with me, how he was going to leave everything to that woman when family deserved it more, how the house should have been Gloria's to begin with. "And look at this," Crystal said, pointing to a bank statement. 3 months after Uncle Marcus died, Gloria deposited $15,000. She told the family it was from selling Uncle Marcus's business equipment. But Uncle Marcus didn't have business equipment, did he? "No," I said slowly. "He worked from home, just his computer and printer." "Exactly. I think she took it from his accounts before everything was frozen. I think she's been stealing from the estate this whole time." I looked at this young woman, this stranger who had no reason to help me, who was turning in her own family. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, Crystal's eyes filled with tears. "Because Uncle Marcus was kind to me. When I was in high school and my parents kicked me out for being gay, I had nowhere to go. Uncle Marcus let me stay with him and Aunt Diane for a month. He helped me get into community college. He told me I was brave and strong and that he was proud of me." She wiped her eyes roughly. "Aunt Gloria never even asked where I was living. My own aunt, and she didn't care if I was homeless or safe or okay. She didn't care. About me, about you, about anyone but herself." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I remember you now. You were that sweet girl Marcus brought home. You helped me in the garden." "You made me feel welcome," Crystal said. "You didn't judge me. You just accepted me. You and Uncle Marcus both did." "Oh, honey." "Uncle Marcus deserved better than what his family did to him, and you deserve better. So I couldn't just sit by and watch Gloria get away with it." I looked at the evidence spread out on the table. The proof that Gloria had not only forged the will, but had also stolen money directly from Marcus's accounts. "What do you want to do with this?" Crystal asked. I thought about it, about justice and mercy, about Marcus and what he would want. "Let me show this to Jeffrey," I said finally, "and we'll figure it out from there." Jeffrey was furious when I showed him Crystal's evidence. "That's theft," he said, his voice tight. "She didn't just try to steal through the fake will, she actually stole money from Marcus's accounts. That's a criminal act." "What happens now?" "We notify the bank. They'll investigate. If Gloria took money from accounts she didn't have access to, they'll want to know how she did it. And then," he paused, "then we have to decide whether to press charges." I thought we were done with that decision. That was about the fake will. This is different. This is actual theft. Money that should have gone to you that went to Gloria instead. You have every right to pursue this. I went home that night and sat with Marcus's coffee cup, world's best husband, and thought about what to do. Part of me wanted to see Gloria punished, wanted her to face real consequences for what she'd done, not just signing a document admitting she'd lied, but actual legal consequences. But another part of me, the part that had loved Loretta, that had tried for 23 years to be part of this family, that part just felt tired and sad. I prayed about it, asked God for guidance, asked Marcus, wherever he was, what he would want me to do. And then I remembered something Pastor Williams had said at Marcus's funeral, something about how Marcus had always believed in second chances, how he'd always been willing to forgive, even when it was hard. But forgiveness didn't mean there were no consequences. The next day I called Jeffrey. "File a report with the bank," I said. "Let them investigate. If Gloria stole money, she needs to pay it back with interest. But I don't want to press criminal charges. I just want the money back and for her to stay out of my life." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Marcus believed in second chances. This is Gloria's second chance. If she wastes it, that's on her. But I'm not going to be the one who sends his sister to jail." Jeffrey was quiet for a moment. "You're a better person than I would be in your situation." "No," I said. "I'm just a person who's tired of all this. I want to move forward with my life. I want to heal, and I can't do that if I'm constantly fighting Gloria in court." The bank investigation took 3 weeks. They found that Gloria had used old bank statements and Marcus's signature, probably from checks he'd written years ago, to access his accounts before I'd been able to freeze them. She'd withdrawn $15,000 in cash. The bank made her pay it back, every penny plus a penalty, and they flagged her account for fraud, which meant she'd have a hard time opening new accounts anywhere else. It wasn't jail, but it was something, and it was enough. Life settled into a rhythm after that. The probate process moved forward slowly but steadily. I worked my part-time shifts at the hospital. I tended my garden. I went to church every Sunday and sat in our usual pew, third from the front on the right, and sang hymns and prayed for strength and healing. And slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Not the same self I'd been before Marcus died. That woman was gone, but a new self, a stronger self, a woman who knew her own worth, who knew she could fight when she needed to, who knew she wasn't alone. One Sunday after church, Pastor Williams pulled me aside. "Diane, I've been meaning to talk to you. We're starting a widow's support group. I know it's been a few months since Marcus passed, but I thought maybe you'd want to join, maybe even help lead it." I hesitated. The idea of sitting in a circle talking about grief and loss seemed overwhelming. But then I thought about how desperately I'd needed support in those first terrible weeks after Marcus died, how grateful I'd been for the casseroles and phone calls and prayers. Maybe I could be that for someone else. "Yes," I said, "I'd like that." The first meeting was on a Thursday evening in the church basement. 7 other women showed up, all of them widows, all of them struggling, all of them searching for something they couldn't quite name. "Hi," I said, sitting down in the circle. "I'm Diane. My husband Marcus died 4 months ago, and I want to tell you something important. You're stronger than you think you are." One woman started crying immediately. Another reached over and squeezed my hand. "My husband's family tried to take everything from me," I continued. "They forged his will. They tried to steal my house. They treated me like I was nothing, like our 23 years of marriage meant nothing. And for a while, I believed them. I thought maybe I was nothing. Maybe I didn't deserve what Marcus left me." I paused, looking around the circle at these women who were all fighting their own battles. But then I remembered something. I remembered that Marcus loved me, that our marriage was real and beautiful and worth fighting for. So I fought. I found proof that the will was forged. I got a lawyer. I stood up to people who tried to make me feel small, and I won. "How?" one woman asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How did you find the strength?" "I didn't have it at first," I admitted. "At first I just had grief and anger and fear. But you know what? Those feelings can fuel you too. Anger at injustice can make you strong. Fear of losing everything can make you brave. And grief can remind you of what matters, of what's worth fighting for." Over the next weeks and months, I watched those women transform. We met every Thursday evening, sharing our stories, supporting each other, crying together and laughing together and slowly, slowly healing together. I told them about Marcus, about our love story, about how we met at church and built a life together, about his kindness and his strength, and the way he'd made sure I'd be taken care of even after he was gone. And in telling them about Marcus, in keeping his memory alive, I found my own healing. One of the women in the group, Sister Joyce, became a close friend. She was in her 60s, had been married for 40 years before her husband passed. She understood grief in a way that only someone who'd lived it could understand. "You're doing a good thing here, Diane," she told me one evening after group, "helping these women, helping yourself. It doesn't always feel like I'm helping, but you are. You're showing them that life goes on, that you can survive the worst thing that ever happened to you and still find joy and purpose and meaning. That's powerful." A year after Marcus died, I decided to host a memorial celebration at the house. Not a funeral. We'd already had that. This was a celebration of his life, a remembering. I invited our friends from church, Marcus's colleagues and clients, Thomas and his wife, Crystal and her girlfriend, Raymond and his family. I did not invite Gloria. We filled the house with music and laughter and stories. Sister Patricia brought her famous red velvet cake. Sister Martha made her pound cake. I made Marcus's favorite, my mama's fried chicken and collard greens and macaroni and cheese. People shared memories of Marcus, his terrible dad jokes, his generous heart, his steady presence, his love for me. Thomas stood up in the living room and raised his glass. "To Marcus Henderson," he said, "a good man, a good friend, a good husband. He knew what mattered in life: faith, family, love. And he chose wisely when he married Diane. She's proven herself to be every bit as strong and brave and kind as he always said she was. Marcus would be so proud of you, Diane." Everyone raised their glasses. To Marcus. Later that evening, after everyone had left, I stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes and thinking about the past year. Everything I'd been through. Everything I'd survived. I'd lost my husband. I'd been betrayed by his family. I'd had to fight for everything Marcus wanted me to have. But I'd also discovered things about myself, my own strength, my own worth, my ability to stand up for what was right even when it was hard. I dried my hands and walked to the living room, to the photo on the mantel, Marcus and me on our wedding day, young and hopeful and so in love. "I miss you," I whispered to his smiling face. "Every single day I miss you. But I'm okay, baby. I'm going to be okay. You made sure of that." I could almost hear his voice in the quiet of the house. "I know you are, Di. I always knew you were strong enough." That night I slept soundly. No nightmares, no anxiety, just peace. The next morning I woke up to sunlight streaming through the bedroom window. My window, in my house, in the home Marcus and I had built together. I made coffee in my kitchen, sat at my table, opened my Bible to Psalms. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul." I read the familiar words, letting them wash over me. Comfort, strength, hope. Then I got dressed and went to church, where I'd been going for 30 years, where I'd met Marcus, where we'd gotten married, where I'd said goodbye to him. My church family surrounded me with love. Sister Patricia with her warm hugs. Sister Martha with her knowing smiles. Pastor Williams with his prayers for strength. After service, I stayed to help with the widows' support group. We had 2 new women that week, both of them raw with grief, both of them scared, both of them desperate for hope. "I know this is hard," I told them. I know it feels like your whole world has ended, but I promise you, you are stronger than you think. You will survive this, and one day, you'll even find joy again." "How long does it take?" one of them asked through her tears. "How long until it stops hurting?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "It's been a year for me, and some days it still hurts so much I can barely breathe. But other days, more and more days, I can smile when I think about my husband. I can remember our love without the grief crushing me. I can see a future for myself." "What does your future look like?" I thought about it. "I'm not sure yet, but I know I want to keep helping people, keep working as a nurse, at least part-time, keep leading this group, keep my husband's memory alive by living the way he lived, with kindness, with integrity, with love." Walking to my car after the meeting, I felt something shift inside me, a new sense of purpose, a new direction. Marcus was gone, but I was still here, still standing, still living, still finding reasons to smile, and that was okay. That was more than okay. That was exactly what Marcus would have wanted for me. 2 years after Marcus died, I was working in my garden, something I'd really taken to as a hobby, finding peace in the dirt and the growing things, when a car pulled up in front of my house. I didn't recognize it at first, but when the driver got out, I realized it was Gloria. She looked different, older, tired. Her hair was more gray than black now, and she'd lost weight. She wasn't wearing her usual expensive clothes, just jeans and a simple blouse. "Diane," she said, stopping at the edge of my garden, "I know I'm not welcome here, but I needed to see you." I stood up, brushing dirt off my gardening gloves. "What do you want, Gloria?" "To apologize. Really apologize, not like before." Her voice was shaky, uncertain. "I've been in therapy, working through a lot of things, and I realized how much I hurt you, how wrong I was, about everything." I studied her, trying to gauge if this was genuine or just another manipulation. "I was jealous," she continued, her voice breaking, "of you and Marcus, of how happy you were together. My marriage fell apart years ago. I was bitter and angry and alone, and I took it out on you. You didn't deserve that. Marcus loved you, really loved you, and I should have been happy for him, should have been glad he found someone who saw him and loved him for exactly who he was. Instead, I tried to destroy what you had, even after he was gone." Tears were streaming down her face now. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know that I see it now. I see how wrong I was, how cruel, how small, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I could have said a lot of things in that moment, could have told her it was too late, could have told her that sorry wasn't enough, could have told her to leave and never come back. But I thought about the past 2 years, about healing and forgiveness and letting go of anger, about being strong enough to choose mercy. "I forgive you," I said quietly. Gloria's face crumpled. You do?" "I do. Not because you've earned it, not because what you did is okay, but because holding on to anger and resentment was poisoning me. I forgive you for my sake, Gloria, so I can move forward with my life." "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." "But," I continued, "forgiveness doesn't mean we're family now, doesn't mean you're welcome in my home or in my life. It just means I'm not carrying the weight of hating you anymore. I'm letting that go. For me, not for you." She nodded, accepting it. "That's fair. That's more than fair. More than I deserve." She turned to leave, then paused and looked back at me. "He really loved you, you know, Marcus. When we were kids, he used to say he was going to find someone who really saw him, not just his potential or his success or what he could give them, but him, who he actually was. He found that in you, Diane. I hope you know that. I do, I said softly. I do know that. After she left, I went back to my garden, back to the earth and the growing things, back to the peace I'd found in creating something beautiful from dirt and seeds and patience. Marcus's house, my house, stood behind me, solid, safe, full of memories of love and laughter and a life well lived. And for the first time since he died, I felt truly at peace, not because everything was resolved, not because all the hurt was gone, but because I'd survived, I'd fought, I'd won, and I was still here, still living, still loving, still finding joy in the small things. That evening I sat on the back porch with a cup of sweet tea, the kind Marcus loved, made with 4 tea bags and enough sugar to make a Baptist preacher smile. I watched the sun set over my garden, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Somewhere in the house behind me, Marcus's coffee cup still sat on his desk. World's best husband. I smiled, raising my tea in a silent toast. You were, I whispered to the wind. You absolutely were. And then I sat back, breathed in the summer air, and let myself be exactly where I was, exactly who I'd become. A woman who'd loved deeply and lost deeply and survived deeply. A woman who knew her own worth. A woman who would be just fine.